Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Professor Devendra Mohan from Department of Physics, Guru Jambheshwar University of Science and Technology, Hisar in Haryana. We will be talking about laser systems 2 under the paper Atomic, Molecular and Laser Spectroscopy. We will be able to understand carbon dioxide laser, nitrogen laser, titanium sapphire laser, free electron laser and X-ray laser. CO2 laser. Carbon dioxide is a linear and symmetric molecule and its ground electronic state is A1. As CO2 is a linear molecule, therefore it has 3n minus 5 is equal to 4 internal vibrational degrees of freedom, where n is equal to 3 is the number of nuclei in the molecule, 1 because of carbon and 2 because of the oxygen. These 4 vibrations correspond to symmetric stretching, double degenerate bending mode and asymmetric stretching mode and have been shown in the figure. In the symmetric stretching mode, the oxygen atoms oscillate along the axis of the molecule, simultaneously departing or approaching the carbon atom that is stationary. In the bending mode, that is doubly degenerate, the molecule ceases to be exactly linear. It occurs both in the plane of the figure and the plane perpendicular to it. In this mode, all the 3 atoms in the molecule undergo vibrational motion perpendicular to the molecular axis. In antisymmetric stretching, all the 3 atoms oscillate, but both the oxygen atoms move in one direction and carbon atom moves in the opposite direction. The figure mentions the symmetric stretching, bending mode and antisymmetric stretching. In the first approximation, these 3 modes are described as independent harmonic oscillators, and hence the excited vibrational states are completely described by the number of excited quanta in each mode. These states are represented by a set of 3 vibrational quantum numbers, nu1, nu2 and nu3, where subscript 1, 2, 3 refer to symmetric bending and antisymmetric modes respectively. The subscript 1 gives the angular momentum of this vibration about the axis of molecule in units of h by 2 pi. For example, 0 to subscript 0 with 0 indicates that the 2 vibrations combine to give an angular momentum L is equal to 0. The figure depicts the energy level diagram for the lowest levels. Each of the vibrational levels has superimposed upon it a set of rotational levels. The rotational levels are spaced by energies that are more than 3 orders of magnitude smaller than the vibrational energies. The CO2 laser uses a mixture of CO2, N2 and helium or water vapor. The active centers are the carbon dioxide molecules lasing on the transition between the rotational levels of the vibrational bands of the electronic ground state. The figure also shows the vibrational energy level for the ground state of nitrogen molecule. Nitrogen, being a homonuclear diatomic molecule, does not possess a permanent electric dipole moment, and hence radiation decay from nu double prime 1 to nu double prime 0 is forbidden. The lifetime of the level nu double prime is equal to 1 is therefore quite long and 0.1 second at 1 torr. The vibrational level 0.0001 of CO2 is in near coincidence against energy E is equal to 18 centimeter inverse with nu double prime is equal to 1 level of nitrogen. The broken lines in the figure show non-radiative transitions. When a discharge is passed in a tube containing mixture of CO2, N2 and helium, electron collisions excite the molecules to higher electronic vibrational rotational states. The electronic collision cross section for the excitation to the level 0001 is very large. The electron collision excites the nitrogen molecule by N2 plus E gives you N2 ion, that to excited state plus emission of electron. The cross section for this process is quite large and produce significant amount of metastable nitrogen in the discharge. These nitrogen molecules transfer their internal energy to CO2 antisymmetric stretching modes through near resonance collision. That means CO2 plus nitrogen excited gives you CO2 in excited state plus nitrogen plus difference of the energy. The cross section for this process is also large. Therefore, the excitation of CO2 0001 level is unusually efficient. Further, the discharge containing the CO2 produces dissociation of CO2 and to CO and oxygen. As CO vibrational frequency is not grossly different from that of the CO2 antisymmetric mode, it will rapidly transfer its internal energy to the CO2 system through near resonant collision in the same manner as nitrogen. The cross section for this process is also large. Therefore, the excitation of CO2 0001 level is usually efficient. Further, the discharge containing the CO2 produces dissociation of CO2 into CO and oxygen. As co-vibrational frequency is not grossly different from that of the CO2 antisymmetric mode, it will rapidly transfer its internal energy to the CO2 system through near resonant collision in the same manner as nitrogen. The high density of population arises principally from three factors: the long vibrational lifetime of the asymmetric mode of CO2, the near resonant nitrogen carbon dioxide energy transfer, the large cross section for the production of the vibrationally excited nitrogen through inelastic collision with electrons. Population gain from one other levels of this asymmetric mode. The 10, 00 and 0200 levels are in resonance. The coupling between these levels is sufficiently strong so that 1000 and 0200 level system behaves like a single level. The separation between these levels, 100 centimeter inverse, that is significantly less than the thermal energy of motion. kBt is approximately 210 centimeter inverse at room temperature. The similarity of vibrational motion in combination with the near degeneracy of the levels causes the rate of transfer between them by collision process corresponding to 1000 plus 0000 giving 0200 plus 000 plus E to be extremely rapid. Thus 1000 and 020 levels of CO2 reaches thermal equilibrium in a very short time. For population inversion between upper 0001 level and lower 1000 and 0200 levels, it is necessary that population of lower levels should decay very fast. The presence of helium has a considerable influence on the population decrease of lower levels. The helium atoms collide with CO2 and increase the rate of relaxation of 0100 levels. The rate is approximately 20 times in collision of the type 0100 plus helium gives you 000 plus helium plus delta E, that for the corresponding, and 0100 plus 0000 gives you 0000 plus 0000 plus delta E. This process where two carbon dioxide molecules collide. This reduces the bending mode population, that in turn reflects itself in reduction of lower level population and hence increases the gain. Another function of helium is to keep carbon dioxide cold. The excited carbon dioxide can decay spontaneously and directly to the ground state, liberating energy as heat. It is necessary to keep temperature of the CO2 as low to avoid population of lower level by thermal excitation. Helium has high thermal conductivity and hence helps to conduct heat away to the walls, keeping CO2 cold. Thus, while nitrogen N2 helps to increase the population of the upper level, helium helps to depopulate the lower level. The laser oscillation is at a wavelength corresponding to the transition from the upper vibrational level 0001 to lower vibrational level 1000. With each vibrational level, rotational levels are also associated. Thus, a number of laser lines are possible. The population of J prime is equal to 21 of 0001 has a maximum population, and transition corresponding to J prime is equal to 21 to J double prime is equal to 22, or P22 is strongest, and this corresponds to the wavelength of 10.6 micrometer. Another laser line of 9.6 micrometer from transition between 0001 and 0200 is also prominent. A schematic of carbon dioxide laser has been shown in the figure. The discharge is produced in tube having diameter of 2.5 cm and length 5 meter. Brewster windows are used at the end. These windows are made up of NaCl, sodium chloride, calcium chloride, barium fluorochloride, zinc selenide, or KCl, as these materials are transparent to 10.6 micrometer radiation. As glass strongly absorbs most of the frequencies in infrared region, therefore near confocal silicon mirrors coated with aluminum are used. Helium, nitrogen and carbon dioxide are filled in the ratio of 8:1:1 with pressure of helium, nitrogen and carbon dioxide as 0.7 torr, 1.2 torr and 0.33 torr respectively. To remove the dissociation products such as CO and O that would contaminate the laser, the continuous flow of the gas mixture is maintained in the tube. Grating can be used to separate out different laser lines, and CO2 laser can be made to operate in pulsed or CW mode. Pulse energy of 2 kilojoule and pulse width is of few microseconds. And for CW operation, power greater than 50 watt is possible. Applications. The advantage of using this laser is based on the fact that it provides very intense heating source over a very small area. So it has applications in material processing, cutting, drilling, material removal, welding, cladding, alloying, hardening, melting, etc. In medicine, it is used for cutting and cauterizing. Nitrogen laser. Nitrogen is a homonuclear molecule. The electronic ground state of nitrogen is X1 sigma plus G. Out of the many electronic states possible, 3 triplet excited states, that is A X1 sigma plus G, B3 pi sigma G, A3 sigma plus nu, along with ground state have been shown in the figure, and the equilibrium internuclear distances Re for various states are given in the table. Corresponding to C3 pi U, Re value is 0.11487, and to the state B3 pi G it is 0.12126, and to A3 sigma U plus it is 0.12866, and X1 sigma plus G it is 0.10977. The values of Re indicate that the minimum of potential for C state lies almost vertically above that of the X state. On the other hand, the minimum of A and B shifted to high R. The electron collides with the molecules and excites them to various levels when the electric discharge is passed through the gas. According to Frank-Kernel principle, the probability of transition from X to C is much larger than that of X to A or X to B. Thus, population inversion occurs at level C with nu is equal to 0 relative to level B with nu is equal to 0 level. A lasing action is observed between C and B levels corresponding to 00 and 01 vibrational levels. As the lifetime of state C is about 40 nanosecond and that of B is about 100 microsecond, therefore the molecules remain in C state for a shorter duration and after transition accumulates in level B. Hence, the population difference between B and C decreases very rapidly and this renders laser action impossible. The population inversion can therefore be achieved only for a short time, and after this the laser action is self-terminating. Due to high gain of this self-terminating transition, oscillations take place in the form of amplified spontaneous emission. Thus, the laser can be operated without mirror. The mirror placed at one end of the tube reduces the threshold power and also provides unidirectional output. This also reduces the beam divergence. The pulse width for nitrogen laser is normally 10 nanosecond and emission wavelength is at 337.1 nanometer. Peak power up to 1 megawatt can be achieved. A pulsed high voltage of about 20 kilovolt triggered by a thyratron or spark gag is applied across the tube through which nitrogen at a pressure of about 100 torr is flowing. On one end of the tube, a mirror is used, while a window used on the other end has a very high transmission. The length of the tube is taken in between 0.1 to 1 meter. Titanium sapphire laser. In 1960, T.H. Memon demonstrated the operation of the first optical maser or the laser. A crystal of synthetically grown ruby or sapphire Al2O3 doped with a small amount of chromium was used in the experiments. P.F. Morton demonstrated a widely tunable laser at Lincoln Laboratory 22 years later, where titanium instead of chromium was incorporated as an impurity into sapphire. So titanium doped sapphire TiAl2O3 has the largest tuning range of any laser, that is from 660 to 1180 nanometer. The titanium sapphire crystals used in the initial experiments exhibited significant scattering and an absorption of the laser wavelength, and these losses affected the efficiency of the laser, and only pulse operation was possible. Further, with the advances in the development of high quality laser crystals of titanium sapphire with significant smaller losses, room temperature continuous wave operation became a reality that was reported in 1986. Sapphire is an ideal host crystal in both the ruby and titanium sapphire laser. It is transparent from ultraviolet to infrared, and also it is non-hygroscopic and very hard, that is required for producing good optical quality surfaces. The most common tunable lasers are the organic dye lasers so far. A dye laser consists of an organic dye such as polymethylene, xanthines or coumarin dyes in a liquid solvent or host. A typical dye laser such as Rhodeman 6G can be tuned from 570 to 610 nanometer. Other dyes have laser bandwidths that cover portions of the spectrum from the ultraviolet to infrared. In a titanium sapphire laser, the laser transition is between two electronic levels of the single titanium ion, and in dye lasers, the laser transition is from one molecular electronic level to another. The broadening of the absorption and luminescence band is caused by the multitude of rotational levels associated with each molecular electronic level. However, there are undesirable characteristics of dye lasers. As toxicity of the dyes and solvents is concerned, degradation of the dye with time, and amplitude noise in the laser output because the dyes are flowed to reduce the thermal loads. Another class of tunable solid state lasers is the alkali halide color center lasers. A color center is a crystal defect in which an electron becomes trapped. For example, an F color center consists of an electron trapped at an anion vacancy of the crystal lattice. The excitations of the trapped electrons strongly couple to the photons of the lattice and get rise to broad absorption and emission bands. Color center lasers can span the wavelength range from 800 nanometer to 4 micrometer, where organic dye lasers are of limited usefulness. Color center lasers have many drawbacks. In many alkali halide crystals, the color centers are not stable at room temperature and degrade on the time scale of a day. In a tunable solid state laser, the interaction between the ion and the host crystal is such that lattice vibrations or phonons usually accompany the emission or absorption of phonons. As a result, the absorption and emission spectra become broadened in each laser. These vibronic transitions can provide gain over the large bandwidth required for tunable lasers. If we come to the spectroscopy of the titanium dot sphere, the titanium ions substitute for aluminum ions and exist in only 3+ charge state. The energy levels of the titanium ions are simple, where a single d electron is in outermost shell, while the remaining 18 electrons have a filled shell configuration of a neutral argon atom. So when the titanium ions are placed in a host crystal, the electrostatic field of neighboring atoms or the crystal field remove the 5-fold angular momentum degeneracy of the single d electron. In titanium sapphire, the 3d electron electrostatically interacts with the electronic charges of 6 surrounding oxygen ions that are positioned at the corners of an octahedron. The figure shows a simplified energy level diagram of our titanium 3+. The electronic configuration of the free ion is that of an organ shell plus a singlet 3d electron. The electronic energy levels of the titanium 3+ ions in titanium sapphire are further perturbed by the sapphire host lattice. When the titanium ion is in excited state, the overall energy of the system gets lowered if the position of the titanium ion displaces itself with respect to the surrounding oxygen atoms, understood to be due to the John-Keller effect. This displacement removes the degeneracy of the two excited angular momentum states that leads to a splitting of the green absorption band. Also, as the titanium ion moves to its new equilibrium position, it kicks the surrounding lattice and excites vibrations in the form of phonons. That is why the titanium sapphire laser is called a vibronic laser. The coupling of the electronic energy levels of the titanium ions with the vibrational energy levels of the surrounding sapphire lattice is essential for titanium sapphire to operate as a laser. The energy level diagram resembles that of a large polyatomic molecule, such as that of an organic dye molecule. When the titanium ion either absorbs or emits a photon, the 3d electron rearranges its orbital more quickly than the heavier titanium 3+ nucleus can move, which is understood due to the Frank-Condon principle. The Gaussian shaped curves at points A and C in the figure represents the probability of finding the titanium ions at a particular position in the lowest vibrational state of the T and E levels respectively. The figure shows absorption of light as the transition from point A to B. The transition is to either of the John-Teller separate upper states and it results in a broad blue-green absorption. The John-Teller separating is not totally resolved and is manifested as the main peak with a shoulder. At point B, the ion displaces itself and lowers its energy by emitting phonons. The transition from point C to point D shows the emission of light and the ion relaxes quickly to the ground state by emitting photons. Two important results are to be noted. First, the emission of light followed the absorption of green light is at a longer wavelength. We call it as shock shifted or the red shifted. A population inversion in the red emission band necessary for amplification is more easily achieved because the emission terminates at high vibration levels of the ground state that are unpopulated because of the fast vibrational relaxation rate. Second, a large emission bandwidth required for broad tunability results because the spread in probability of the titanium ion position at the bottom of the E potential can connect via vertical transitions to a large spread of vibrational levels of the T potential. Further, excited levels of the 3d electrons lie far above the E levels and hence the titanium ions exhibits no excited state absorption. Laser structure: continuous wave titanium sapphire laser, mode lock titanium sapphire laser. Pumping is done either by argon laser, which is a CW operation, or a doubled ND-YAG or ND-YLF lasers for pulse operation is used as pumping sources. So applications are the lasers are used in infrared spectroscopy of semiconductors and in laser radar, rangefinders and remote sensing. These are used in medical applications such as photodynamic therapy. They are used to produce short pulses of X-rays by focusing the mode-locked pulses onto solid target from which high density and high temperature radiating plasmas are produced, plasmas that in turn emit large fluxes of X-rays. Free electron laser. More than 50 years ago, the first coherent red light has been generated by Ruby laser, and thereafter more than 20 years ago, the first coherent infrared light has been generated at the Stanford University, and this laser was named as free electron laser. The principle of the laser is, for this new type of coherent radiation source that appeared from the very beginning to be quite promising, the reason lies on the peculiarity of its operating principle. In FEL, the active medium is not made up of atoms or molecules. It consists of a beam of free electrons propagating at relativistic velocities in a spatially periodic magnet. We call it as undulator, where the electrons experience the Lorentz force, execute transverse oscillations, and emit synchrotron radiation in the forward direction, as can be seen in the figure. The wavelength lambda of the emitted radiation depends on the electron energy E, on the period of the undulator magnet lambda U, and on the magnetic field B. So lambda is equal to 1 upon 2 lambda U 1 plus k square mc square upon E square, where k is equal to E B lambda U upon 2 pi mc square, and we call it as the pitch parameter. The figure depicts the synchrotron emission in undulator magnet. The second figure gives us the synchrotron emission in undulator magnet. The previous relationship can be easily derived by taking into account the synchronism condition, that is, considering that the electron that is oscillating with a spatial period lambda u and it is moving with a longitudinal speed v maintains oscillation after oscillation the same phase relation with respect to the emitted electromagnetic wave of wavelength lambda running along the same direction at the speed c. Thus v is equal to c lambda u upon lambda u plus lambda. Taking into account the relationship between electron energy and relativistic velocities, the process described so far can be viewed as a kind of spontaneous emission by electrons propagating in an undulator magnet. By spontaneous means that the emission occurs in the absence of field quasi-resonant with the emitted radiation and co-propagating with the electrons. The probability of realizing a stimulated process is quite natural if the photons emitted along the passage through the undulator are trapped in an optical cavity and then interact again with a fresh electron beam, and these electrons are forced to emit stimulated synchrotron radiation. One can associate to this process a gain, and if gain is larger than the cavity losses, the onset of laser action is achieved, which is in full analogy with conventional lasers. So when saturation is reached, highly coherent radiation can be extracted from the optical cavity. So a quantity of much importance is small gain coefficient that characterizes the gain of the device for its operation in low or high gain regime. The figure gives a layout of free electron laser single passage. In the spectral region where the mirror reflectivity is too small, typically in the vacuum ultraviolet region, a different operation scheme based on single passage self-amplified spontaneous emission is possible if the electron beam brightness is good enough to have very high gain. In this operation mode, the electron beam interacts with its own spontaneous radiation and an unstable wave is excited. The radiation intensity I grows exponentially along the undulator. The most interesting features of FELs are lambda can be tuned, that means tunability, by varying electron energy period and amplitude of magnetic field. In addition, harmonic generation can provide even shorter wavelengths. Time structure. Depending on the E-beam time structure, it ranges from CW to ultra short pulse regime, that is fraction of picoseconds. Coherence. Transverse and longitudinal for oscillators and coherent and amplifiers, only transverse for SASE. Brilliance. The FEL brilliance can be larger in some spectral regions, in particular in vacuum ultraviolet to X-rays, by many order of magnitude than the brilliance of the existing sources. There are many FEL devices in operation around the world ranging from millimeter waves to ultraviolet. Coming to the X-ray lasers, after T. Memon demonstrated the first laser in 1960, the optical community immediately began seeking shorter and shorter wavelengths through the visible and into the ultraviolet. By the early 1970s, lasers had reached the vacuum ultraviolet. However, the push toward shorter wavelengths around 110 nanometer as problems emerged with short wavelength laser physics. As the energy of a laser transition increases, the excited state lifetime decreases and the pump energy required to produce a population inversion increases. In fact, the two effects combine. So pump energy must be concentrated in a pump pulse that can be deposited very quickly in the laser material. A further complication is the lack of materials able to reflect or transmit light efficiently in the deep or extreme ultraviolet range, making conventional mirrors and windows impractical. With these problems in mind, scientists shifted their approach and instead of trying to make a laser oscillator, they sought to highly excite cylindrical plasmas that could generate intense X-ray pulses by amplifying stimulated emission along their lengths. The obvious way to excite the plasma was by firing intense optical laser pulses onto a target, and fortunately high power lasers became possible. Shorter wavelengths and smaller lasers. The selenium experiments marked a major milestone for Livermore, but had two important limitations. The 20 nanometer wavelength is relatively long. Biological imaging researchers wanted wavelengths shorter than 4.5 nanometer, and some definition of X-rays include only wavelengths shorter than 10 nanometer. The logical way to shorter wavelengths was by using neon-like ions of heavier elements. Molybdenum brought Livermore to 13.3 nanometer, but NOVA did not have the power to reach 4.5 nanometer with heavier neon-like ions. These Livermore and NOVA are the models of the lasers. Reaching that target required shifting to nuclei-like ions, heavy elements stripped of all but their 28 innermost electrons. Europium was first at 7.1 nanometer and Livermore later reached 4.316 nanometer in tungsten. So Hagelstein in 1986 devised a dual pulse approach, with the first pulse ionizing the plasma and the second exciting the ions to produce a population inversion in nickel-like niobium. Lacking mirrors suitable for X-ray oscillators, all those X-ray laser oscillators demonstrates generated only amplified spontaneous emission with limited coherence. Early this year, Roca's group reported an important new twist, aiming high harmonics from a titanium sapphire laser into the excited plasma. Where plasma gain matched a harmonic frequency, the plasma amplified the harmonic seed pulse, generating gain saturated output at 18.9 nanometer from nickel-like molybdenum and 13.9 nanometer from nickel-like silver. Those experiments are a big step toward practical coherent tabletop X-ray source, and the shorter wavelength is in a band that is attractive for future generations of semiconductor photolithography. So, summarizing what we have learned is various lasers like CO2 laser, nitrogen laser, free electron laser, X-ray lasers, including the excitation mechanism, and these are of interest in material processing, defense and diagnostics in medicine. Titanium sapphire laser is quite important as it is a tunable one and is used for nonlinear studies, particularly for measurement of optical susceptibility in photonic materials. Thank you.